Rad.
As a lot of you are probably already aware, Nintendo just released a brand new Nintendo Direct for November 5th, 2014, and they showed a lot of games there, but I was actually most impressed by the brand new trailer for Splatoon's campaign. Now, as a filmmaker, it wasn't very hard for me to appreciate just how damn well that trailer was edited. There was a lot of information being delivered in such a short amount of time, and because of that, it is easy to miss stuff. So let's actually take an in-depth look at that trailer and see what we can dig up. The trailer starts off with the same type of multiplayer gameplay that we were shown at E3. You're able to see a few new stages here, including this one that appears to be some sort of boardwalk. There's also a shield item that appears here that was not shown before at E3, but not only that, there's also large bomb projectiles that explode upon impact, spreading a large amount of goop everywhere. Here the trailer is interrupted by the Octopi, the villains of Splatoon. From how it looks, the standard enemy in the game are going to be the tentacle octopus, which pilot little sentries with a paint cannon on the front. Some of these appear to have riot shields, and that'll require you to spray them from behind. There's a lot of different enemy types introduced in this trailer, such as flying enemies, a bigger, rounder swimming enemy, rockets with legs that explode upon impact, and you're going to want to stay away from those ones, a group of large planted tentacle enemies, what appears to be a big cube boss, and finally, this mysterious figure here. So here we get a snippet of the riot shield enemies. You can see that the Inkling sprays paint around it so it can dive down quickly, swim around, and attack from behind. It really looks like you're going to be constantly switching between swimming and running modes in order to dodge bullets. Right here, even after defeating the enemy, you can still see a bullet airborne, which the Inkling then dives down in order to dodge. There's going to be a lot of fast-paced dodging in this game. Also right here you can see a crate is destroyed after being shot, so maybe these crates can be used as cover, but they're only temporary as they'll get wrecked after shot at. Or maybe there's items inside that you can find, who knows. You can also see enemies standing on top of these crates, so it makes me wonder if you can break them from underneath, making the enemies lose their footing. There's a number of fantastic looking platforming segments here, and they all look like they take great advantage of the game's splatter and swim mechanics. Here we see a green Inkling diving out of the paint across a wide gap onto a moving beam, so we know there's going to be a lot of launching yourself around obstacles. There's also a lot of tricky little ways to get around things, like this conveyor belt right here. The player uses this to quickly swim under the fence and behind the enemy, giving you the advantage. One thing that's pretty easy to miss is that there's going to be a level of stealth to this game. In this tiny little clip here, you can see that as you swim in the paint, the enemy is unaware of your presence, but they notice you once you pop out. Much like Metal Gear Solid, the character's knowledge of your whereabouts are displayed with question marks and exclamation marks above the enemy's heads. Here we can see some rotating platforms, and that means you're going to have to be quick with how you spray and swim across. It also looks like there's fans that propel certain platforms forward when shot at. If you pay attention, you can also notice that the platforms move back when you're not shooting at it. So in an area like this where you have enemies firing at you, you'll have to manage all of this at once. It looks like this will call for a lot of really tense, really fun moments. For a very brief moment in the trailer, you can see a clip of what appears to be some sort of turret section. The bullet the turret fires looks like a pretty heavy load, like a cannonball or something, so it doesn't really look that much like a turret section, which is good because we all know how much turret sections suck, as it looks like you're able to just briefly take control of cannons spread throughout the levels in order to take down bigger obstacles. Another thing I noticed is that there's a lot of balloons scattered throughout the stage. Upon shooting it, it appears that a bunch of red spheres emerge from it. Later on in the trailer, you can see the player collecting these spheres, which add to a total count at the top right of the screen. It's currently unknown what exactly these do, but it might tally up to some sort of score at the end of each level. You've probably noticed that the Inklings all seem to be customizable, as we've seen them wearing all sorts of hats and accessories, so these spheres might be the key to unlocking those, but for now, it's hard to say. I mentioned before that you can see a character using a shield, but it also appears that enemies will also sport shields, and this tiny clip here where you can see an Inkling blasting away the shield of a creature. Now this creature right here isn't featured anywhere else in the trailer, and it's not introduced in the very beginning, and he looks very different from the other enemies in the game, so as of now, I don't exactly know what this little guy can do. You can also see a little tightrope-like obstacle here that you can maneuver your way up. It looks like a much faster version of the tightropes in Super Mario Sunshine or Super Mario 3D Land. Right here you can see some sort of death trap. It's like a moving wall of constantly sprayed paint right here. Normally it would look like you can just swim under it, but since it's creating paint a different color than yours, you're probably unable to spray the paint in the area to be able to do that. So because of that, we see the Inkling being annihilated by this thing, so it might be one of the tougher obstacles that you'll have to find another way around. Here we have small little cubes floating in the air that you can expand by filling them up with paint. This will turn them into platforms that you can then jump onto. The way they pulsate after being shot at once a certain size indicates that they're only able to hold a certain amount of paint. And that makes me wonder if they'll empty after time passes, giving you only so much time to cross the platforms. An interesting little bit right here is you can see spouts or like fountains of goop coming out of the ground, and they seem to be activated once you spray the little vents right there. It's looking like something you'll be able to activate to maybe use as an obstacle or a shield, or methods of quickly spreading your paint around the area, giving you room to swim, or maybe wiping out nearby enemies. A neat little thing I noticed is that just like the multiplayer, you can jump to different parts of the map. However, it appears that you're not just able to jump wherever you want to like you can in multiplayer by tapping on the gamepad, but instead it's triggered by these little launch pads, so I'm thinking that it's just like Mario Galaxy as you use like a launch star just to get to the next chunk of the stage. The game structure actually overall looks much like a Mario Galaxy game, come to think of it. The way there's a bunch of floating platforms all around and is divided into large chunks of platforming action. What separates this from Mario, though, is that the gameplay in this game is ridiculously fast-paced. The amount of shooting, dodging, and platforming you all have to do at the exact same time makes this game look like a total blast. Towards the end of the trailer, we briefly get to see what I think is some sort of boss in the shape of a giant cube. It's not super clear on how you're supposed to fight the thing, but it looks like to me you have to spray up the side of it to maybe swim up and trigger some sort of weak spot, or maybe offset the boss's balance or something like that. It's too hard to tell at this point. We're also introduced to a brand new character, an elderly Inkling. He appears twice very briefly in the trailer, once coming out of a manhole and another time doing some sort of motion with his head, which to me it looks like he's yelling out to you. So because of that, I think he might be some sort of tutorial character that explains to you how to perform certain actions, or maybe he's someone that teaches you new moves, kind of like Bottles in Banjo-Kazooie or something like that. The other character we see very briefly that I also mentioned briefly at the beginning of the video is this one right here. I'm thinking it's probably the Octopi's version of the Inkling, meaning they're just as capable of using an array of weapons and jumping around as you are. They also appear to be carrying a similar gun to the Inkling, so that kind of further supports that. They might be a much more important character too, maybe like the villain of the game or something. At this point, it's too hard to say. Between scenes in the trailer, we're treated to a lot of neat little artwork, some of which looks like illegible newspaper prints. This might be communicating some of the game's story, like maybe how the octopus outbreak is spreading around with newspapers or something like that, I don't know. Being a Nintendo game, I'm not expecting a huge story, just like a cute little kind of story that's mostly told through images rather than dialogue, so I think that's what these images are doing right here. Also, if you look closely, you can see 8-bit sprites of a blooper from Mario and some Octoroks from Zelda in these images. One last bit I want to address is the music, and I really hope the music continues in this direction. It's got a very rapid, kind of almost electronic kind of sound to it that samples a lot of random instruments, like there's banjo here and there's like didgeridoos in there. I got an almost Hideki Naganuma vibe from it, and for those that don't know, he's the guy that made the music for Jet Set Radio. It's bizarre yet visceral and exciting kind of music, and it really suits the game extraordinarily well, so I'm looking forward to more music like this being in the game. Overall, I think this trailer has made the game look pretty damn good. All I can say is fast, fast, fast. This game looks very fast-paced. It's the high-speed kind of action platforming game I've been wanting to see in the Wii U since the console's launch, and it looks like we're finally getting it. I don't know about you guys, but I'm hella excited for this one, so look forward to it in spring of 2015. Hey guys, and thank you so much for watching. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Daniel San GMR for letting me use his cover of the Splatoon theme in this video. If you want to listen to that, click the link right here to hear that. It is such a sick cover. Let me tell you right now, I highly recommend you check that out. I looked all over the internet for covers of the Splatoon theme from E3, and none come close to this one. I can tell you that right now. Check it out. I've never done a trailer analysis video or anything like this before, so if it's not very good, that's why, okay, yeah. But if you did like the video, don't forget to click that like button. So, we'll see you guys next time. As always, take care, guys. New that we didn't know before.